Good morning, everyone. So today is we are already started the exceptions, right? So we can handle the exceptions by using below keywords. Exceptions by using below keywords. Okay. So already done with the discussion with the try block and catch keyword, and then finally. Okay. So today we'll discuss about the throws, and then we will discuss about the throw. Okay. First we'll go with the throws keyword. Okay, the main purpose of throws keyword generally, which is used to hand over the exceptions to the caller method or JVM, which is used to hand over the exceptions, hand over the exceptions to the caller method or JVM. JVM. Okay. Next one is we have the throw keyword. Throw keyword. So which is used to create the exceptions programmatically. Create the exception programmatically. Okay, I will show you which is used to create the exception programmatically, or you can say wantedly. Programmatically, or you can say wantedly. Okay. First, we'll go with the throws keyword. Okay, so generally, which is used to hand over the exceptions to the caller method and JVM. So simply, I will take the file. So here I'm taking the class name. You can take the class name is anything. So in my case, I'm taking the class name is the demo. Class name is the demo, and then this is the scope of the class. And here I'm taking the main method as well. I'm taking the main method. Main simply control space bar. Then you will get the sessions in the drop down. You click on it, you will get it. Okay. Okay, here I am taking the checked exceptions. Checked exceptions meaning like the meanwhile the compiler also will check parallelly. Okay, here I am taking file reader, and file reader. We need to import the package which is file reader. So I am creating the file reader, and then I am storing in some reference variable. File reader. File reader is the predefined class. You can store the file reader. We have created the object, and then import the file reader java.io package. We can import that package, and this object we can store in some reference variable. The reference variable name you can take anything. The reference variable name you can take anything, and this is the reference variable, right? For any reference variable have the data type. So here the same class name I am using as a data type. Okay, here I am taking some dummy path actually abc dot text. Okay, normally this is not available in my local also, so that's why it is throwing the error file not found at exception. Okay, so this is the checked exception or not? This is the checked exception, right? So meanwhile it is checking the exception, and it is telling to me checked exception. Okay, how will you handle this one? So throws, we will use the throws keyword, and then we will throw the exception. Why? We are telling to the compiler, hey compiler, I know this exception, you just shut up. I'm throwing the exception. Throwing the exception meaning it will ignore the all the exceptions. So simply you can mention with throws keyword, and then you can mention file not found exception. File not found exception. Okay, file not found exception. Can change to file not found exception. Are you guys clear with my point? Here it is throwing the error. It is throwing the error. So I'm telling to the compiler, hey compiler, I know this error. You can ignore. you can ignore that error. So how will you tell to the JVM? So simply can use the throws keyword, and then we will mention the class name, and then we will mention the class name. Okay, the same point I am writing here. Whenever we are using the throws keyword, throws the exception, then JVM will ignore compiler will ignore all the exceptions. All the exceptions, right? Are you guys clear with my point? This is clear. So I will take one more method. For example, class. This is the method class dot for name. Okay. If you see, this one is also throwing the error, right? So how can I tell to the JVM, I know this error, you can throw the exception. So here also you can mention like throws comma, you can mention this is the class not found exception. You can mention with class not found exception, class not found exception, right? So instead of writing two times, we can directly write the parent class as well. So this is the one class and this is the one class, right? So instead of writing the two classes, we can directly write one class. One class is super parent class for all the classes is the exception. We can write directly parent class. Are you guys clear with my point? Instead of writing the two classes, we can write single class as well. We can write single class as well. Okay. So class not found exception, class take the class not found exception. Okay. So instead of writing two classes, we can write the parent class as well. We can write the parent class as well. So here I am simply writing exceptions. Exceptions. Okay. Simply you can write the parent class. Right? Yeah, as of now is clear guys. So here you can simply write throws is the keyword which is used to hand out the all checked exceptions. So that is also one point. So we can with the help of node throws keyword which is used to hand over the all the checked exceptions which is used to hand over all the checked exceptions. So if you see here I have taken two exceptions. One is the file reader exception and the second one is the class not found exception. So with the help of throws keyword, I am ignoring. I am tell to the compiler, hey compiler, we can ignore. I know those exceptions. You just do the compilation. I am telling to the JVM. I am telling to the compiler. Okay. So how can I tell? So simply you can use the throws keyword and then you can mention specific class name or you can mention parent class as well. Anything is fine. Okay. So simply I would say which is used to hand over the all checked exceptions, which is used to hand over the all checked exceptions. So we have the below the this one is the example for that one. This is the example for all checked exceptions. This is example for all checked exceptions. Are you guys clear with my point? This is clear. This is clear or not? Throws generally which is used to hand over the exception, checked exceptions to the caller method or JVM. Okay. So next one we have the throw keyword. Throw keyword generally, so we will create the exceptions programmatically. So based on the requirement. For example, here I will show you. For example, here I will take the method uh, string get name. Okay, string get name. Here I would like to take the parameter int id equal to. Okay, from here to here, this is the scope of the method, and here I am taking the conditions. The conditions if id equal to 100, and I want to return some Raju. Return statement is some Raju. Okay, and then the next thing is else if I'm taking the multiple conditions here. I'm taking the else if id equal to 101, then I need to display the message as Rani. Okay, return, I need to display the message as Rani. Okay, Rani. Okay, so when I am calling the 100 method, at the time the Raju message will be displayed. When I am calling the method with 101, Rani method will be displayed. Rani method will be displayed. So instead of these two numbers, if I call with any other number, then what should I get? So we need to display some message, invalid credit, invalid ID, like that. We need to create that one. So for that purpose, we will create we will create normal programmatically. We will create one exception with the help of throw keyword. So how I am creating? So normally how will you create the object? New and then exception. Okay, and then exception. Here I am passing the message is invalid id, and then so we need to throw this object, right? How will you throw? We can use the throw keyword, and we can throw the exception. Okay, here it is throwing the exception. Why? This is the exception I am only created. Okay, this is the exception I am only created. We need, so uh, with the help of throw keyword I can create the exception programmatically. Okay, I am only created this exception, so we need to throw this exception by using the throws keyword. Throws keyword, here you can mention exception. Okay, throws keyword you can mention with exception. So this is the thing. Are you guys clear with my point? If you call this method with 100, Raju will we will get the Raju as the output. If I call the method with 101, I can get the Rani. So instead of 100 and 101, if I call with any other number, then we need to display some message. How will you display? For that purpose, I am creating one exception with the help of throw keyword. So this is the exception I have created programmatically. This is the exception I have created programmatically, right? Programmatically, and this is the exception I have created programmatically. I know this is the exception. We need to throw that exception with the help of throws keyword. With the help of throws keyword. Are you guys clear with my point? This exception I have created programmatically. So this is the exception only, right? We need to handle. We need to. So we are telling to the compiler that is the exception. We can ignore that exception with the help of throws keyword. With the help of throws keyword. This is clear, guys. So this is the instance method, or what? This is the instance method, right? So how will you call the instance method? You can call the instance method by using the object, right? So simply new demo, new, I would say demo, and then this object got created. This object will be stored in some reference variable. This reference variable data type is the demo. Now the method, if I call with 100, it will display the get name. If I call with 100, then it will display it will display written raws, right? If I want to display, I need to mention this one in the sysout statement. Simply what I am doing, I am taking sysout statement. So inside the sysout statement, I will mention this one. Okay, save all, and then you can run the program and you can see the result. You can remove these two. Yeah. So can create the object, new demo, and then you can store this object in some reference variable, and then the demo. Okay, demo d dot get name. You can take the some 100, and then uh, can keep the try catch blocks, and then copy this one. And I will say save that one, and you can run the program. You can save this one. Hmm? Hmm. I'm saving this one, and then here instead of this one, I'm printing some source statement. Hmm. अच्छा, int id throws exception, and we have created the object, and we are calling the getName method, and then getName id. We are catching that one, and we are display some other quantity like message coming from catch. Okay, I'm saving this one, and then you save this one, and then okay. That basically the difference is throw is a keyword which is used to create the exception programmatically. Throws is the keyword which is used to ignore the all checked exceptions. Ignore the all checked exceptions. Okay. So that is all about the difference between the throw and throws keyword. Throw and throws keyword. Okay. We can try with those two. The basically the difference is throw is the keyword which is used to create the exceptions programmatically. But in case of throws keyword, which is used to ignore the all checked exceptions. Okay, which is used to ignore the all checked exceptions, right? And then next we have the third exception. Where is the man? Oh. We have the third exception, that is the user defined exception. User defined exception, or we can say custom exception, or we can say custom exception. Okay, anything is fine. So this is also the main purpose of this is which is used to create the exception, which is used to create the exception based on the requirement. Based on the requirement. Okay, sometimes we will create the exceptions manually. Sometimes we will create the exceptions manually. At the time we will go with the user defined exceptions. Okay, while creating the user defined exceptions, we need to follow the some rules. We need to follow some rules. What are the rules we need to follow? So whatever the exception is coming, we need to create the exception by create the class create the class using exception name. Using exception name. For example, if I get the invalid password exception, when like generally where we will use the user defined exception screening. So I will show you. Simply we'll be having the, we'll take the MS Paint. Generally where we will use user defined exception, we'll try to understand. So everybody awareness of Gmail, right? Gmail. So you are trying to log in with your username and password. Okay. Sometimes what will happen? You are trying to give in the wrong credentials. At the time, you are getting the one like one error, that is invalid ID, invalid password, right? So how the message is coming? So for coming that message, we will create some exceptions with the help of user defined exceptions. Are you guys clear with my point? Based on the situations, we will create some user defined exceptions like that Gmail. When you are trying to log in with Gmail, if you are giving to wrong credentials, it will display some message. It will display some message. So such kind of exceptions we can create them manually. The same example I am taking, and then I will write the program on it. So first one is the whatever the we can create the class name using the exception name, okay. Second point is so for all the checked exception, parent class is the runtime exception parent class is the exception, right? So second point is we can inherit the properties. We can inherit the properties of runtime exception or runtime exception, or we can say checked exception. Checked exception, okay. Checked exception, right? And then the third point is create the object with exception name, create the object with exception name, and throw the object, right? And fourth point is whatever the throwing the object with those exception, above the exception we can handle by using try and catch block. we can handle we can handle by using try and catch block. This is the thing. While writing the user defined exception, we need to follow these rules. First rule is create the class using exception name. Okay. Second rule is we can inherit the properties of runtime exception or checked exceptions. And next thing is create the object with exception name and throw the object. Fourth point is above exception we can handle by using the try and catch block. While writing the user defined exceptions, these are the rules we need to follow. Okay, simply I am taking one class with invalid password. Okay. So simply I am taking the class name which is invalid password exception. I'm going to my IDE. There itself I'm creating one more class. I'm taking the class name with invalid password exception. Okay. Invalid password exception. So this is the rule number one. Whatever the exception we are getting, you can create the class with exception name. Okay. This is the step number one. I'm taking invalid password exception. invalid password exception, and then I am clicking on it. This is the step number 1 is done. And step number 2 is we can inherit the properties from checked exception or runtime exception. So in my case, I am taking the runtime exception. Runtime exception. Okay, runtime exception, right? So step number 2 is done. Okay, so I will take one more class. The class name is login form. I'm taking one more class. The class name is login form. Class name is login form. Okay, I'm taking the main method as well, and then finish, and then finish. So here what I'm doing, so I'm taking like a string id equal to some admin. Okay, and then next thing is enter password equal to 1234, some password I'm giving. Okay, so here I'm taking the condition like first one is the string, right? So string dot equals id dot equals method, which is used to compare the comparison between two strings. Okay, string, here you can mention with admin. Okay, and here I am taking this is the scope of the if block, and inside the if block I am taking one more if block. So that is here I am taking id equal to 1234 uh, password. Yeah. Okay, password. Okay, what will happen? So the first it will whatever the credentials, if you are giving the admin as the id and password as the id, first it will come. So in case of string we will use the equals method. In case of integer we will use the double equals for comparing the values. Okay, are you guys clear with my point? For comparison the strings we will use the method equals method. For comparison the numbers we will use the double equals. Okay, we will use the double equals whatever you are giving. So once they are equal, then only it will display some message. So that message is I am displaying sysout statement. Here I am mentioning with login successful, login successful, login successful. Okay, I am mentioning with this message login successful. I am saving this one, and then this is the scope of this one, and this is the scope of this one. Okay, if you see here, uh, if I given the correct credentials, then we will get the login successful. Okay, if I not given the current credentials, then we need to display some message, right? We need to display some message. So the message here I am displaying, I will take the else block. So as of now, you guys clear? I'm taking the ID and integer password is 1234, and whenever I am giving the both are correct, then only it will display the login successful. Then only it will display the login successful, right? So this is the hard coding. So simply if I if I run this one, you are getting the login successful, right? So now what I am doing is instead of taking the hard coding, this is the hard coding, right? I am only taking the admin and password here only. So instead of taking the hard coding, I can read the data from the keyboard by using the scanner class. So how will you read the data from the keyboard? So you can take the scanner class, scanner, and then you can mention with system dot. You can mention with system dot in, system dot, okay, in, and then we need to import the package, right? So this is available in the java.util package. We can select that java.util package, and then this class you can object you can store in some any object, scanner, okay. So now we can read the two datas. One is the string format, second one is the integer format. Okay, so the same thing, I'm taking some dummy message here, and here I am mentioning is enter. I would say I enter. First one is the ID. Enter ID. Okay, and for reading the integers, where we have the methods. So sc dot. If you click on the space bar, we will get the options, right? So if you scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. If you see here, next is the method which is used to take the string values, which is used to take the string values. If you click on it, and then we can store this one in, we are validating this one, right? Then we can mention with id, and then this is the string format. We can mention with the string. Okay. Similarly, we can do the same process in case of password also. We can do the same process in case of password also. So here I am taking the sysout statement, enter password, enter password, and then here you can take sc dot. Now here we will read, our requirement is we need to read integer. So simply you can come down. If you see here, next int is the method which is used to read the integer values. If you click on it, and then this one you can store in some reference variable. So the reference variable is the password, and the data type is the int. The data type is the int. Now we are taking the values from dynamically. Now we are taking the values from the dynamically. Now I am removing these two lines, and then I am saving this one. I am saving this one, and then now if I run this program, run as Java application, enter id, which is asking enter id. So here I am giving like admin, and then here I am giving the correct credentials. When I am giving the correct credentials, it will display. But okay, I am running the same program. Here I am giving the wrong credentials, like so no message is displaying, right? So instead of no message is displayed, so in that case we will create one exception, and then we need to throw that exception. Are you guys clear with my point? So for that purpose, simply when I'm giving the credentials are true, then it will display the message is login successful. But our requirement is not that one, right? Whenever you are giving the wrong credentials in the Gmail, you are showing some message, right? Like you are giving wrong credentials, like that. So the same message we need to display. For that purpose, simply take else block, and inside the else block we can create the exception. We can create the exception. This is the third rule. We have the third rule, right? So this one is done, this one is done. We can create the exception. We can create the object with the exception name, with the exception name. Okay, so normally how will you create the exception? By using new keyword, new. So our class name is invalid password, invalid password exception, and then this exception we can store in some object, right? Object, and then the class name is invalid password exception. Invalid password invalid password exception. Okay, this is the one way to create the object, and second way we directly can create the like this is the second way. The second way is directly you can use the throw keyword and then new, and then you can use the parent exception, and then here you can pass the message. Here you can pass the message. Here you can pass the message that is invalid credentials. Invalid credentials. This is the one way. Okay. Now I have created the object. I need to throw the exception. Throw object. Throw object. Are you guys clear with my point? So this is the step number 3. This is the step number 3. Okay. If I run this one in that case also I will not get anything. So the fourth step is we will create the object, right? So that object we have the exception. So we have created the object and we are throwing the object. That throwing object you can handle with using try and catch block. Using try and catch block. Okay. So simply now what I am doing, this is the risky code, right? This risky code I am keeping inside the try block. I am taking one try block. I am taking one try block. Try block. So inside the try block, I will keep risky code, and then this object is thrown by the try block, right? So I'm catching that one by using, you can directly use this class name, or you can directly use the parent class as well. Anything is fine. Okay. So here I am displaying the message is system.out.println system.out.println invalid credentials. Invalid credentials. I'm saving this one. Now again I'm running this file. It is asking enter id. So in my case, if I give the correct it will take, but I am giving the wrong. Here also I am giving, if you see, invalid credentials. How this message is displaying, we are creating the object with that exception name, and we are throwing some display, we are throwing some message, we are throwing some message. Are you guys clear with my point? So this is the normally we will create the custom exceptions. Okay. So apart from this, whatever the we done in the previous cases, those all are predefined one, but this is the our custom exception. Sometimes in the project, based on the requirement, we will create the custom exception as well. Sometimes based on the requirement, we will create the custom exceptions as well. Okay. So while creating the custom exception, we need to follow these rules. First one is create the class name, create the class using the exception name, and second one is we can inherit the properties of runtime exception or checked exception, and third one is create the object with the exception name and throw the object. Okay, above the exception we can handle by using the try and catch block. So simply the same thing, the process. Simply we have created the exception with the class name with exception name, and we can extend the properties of the parent like runtime exception, and we are taking one more class that is the login form, and equals method which is used to comparison between the strings. So in the strings concept already we done with the equals method. This double equals method, this double equals we already done with the operators. Okay, which is used to comparison between two strings. Comparison between two strings. Comparison between two strings. But in case of double equals, which is used to comparison between the numbers, which is used to comparison between the numbers, comparison between the integers. Are you guys clear with my point? So some of them what they are doing, id equal to admin. They are mentioning like that. no, for comparing the strings we will use the equals method. Okay, for comparing the integers we will use the double equals wherever the we will create the object and we are throwing that object, and we can handle that object by using the try and catch block. We can handle the that object by using the try and catch block. We can handle that object by using the try and catch block. So this is the scenario of using try and catch block. Okay, so finally the basically we're done with the try keyword generally which is used to keep the risky code inside the try block. Okay, keep the risky code inside the try block, right? Keep the risky code. And next, catch is the keyword which is used to catch the exception, next finally block which is used to execute all the times, which is used to execute the statements all the times, okay, execute the statements all the times. Next one, we have the throws keyword which is used to hand over the checked exceptions, hand over the checked exceptions to the caller method, checked exceptions to caller method or JVM, caller method or JVM. Okay. Next, throw keyword which is used to create create exception programmatically, or you can say programmatically or we can say wantedly. Okay, and then where we have the user defined exception as well. Based on the requirement we will create the user defined exceptions. user defined ex exception these are the rules while creating the user defined exceptions. Okay, so with this we done with exception handling part. So in the exception handling part, like we done the discussion with what is exception. Okay, I will increase some font size. Okay, we done the part with what is exception, and the second point why we need to handle the exception, why we need to handle the exception, why we need to handle the exception, and then third one is we done with exception hierarchy, exception hierarchy. Okay, and then next thing is we done with mm, types of exceptions, and then we done with checked exceptions, checked exception, and then we done with unchecked exception, unchecked unchecked exception, and then we done with we can handle the exceptions. We can handle the exceptions by using below keywords. We can handle the exceptions using below keywords. The keywords are, I would say, try, and then catch, and then finally, and then next thing is throws, and then throw. Okay, eighth one is user defined exception, user defined exception, or you can say custom exception, or you can say custom exceptions. So in the interview perspective, the regular question is they will ask. Here we'll be having one more topic, that is the exception and error. Okay, Here, in the interview perspective, the important question is what is the difference between the exception and error? What is the difference between exception and error? Exception and error. That is the one important question. And then the second important question is what is the difference between checked exception and unchecked exception? Checked exception and unchecked exception. These are the two differences. Unchecked exceptions. These are the they will ask in the differences in case of exceptions. Okay. With this we done exception topic. Today what you guys will do, you can do the assignments on throws keyword and throw keyword, and then second assignment user define. User define. Okay, you can do this assignment and you can take the screenshot of it and you can share it. Okay. And guys, please share your names. I will stop the live.